Hi, this is Sam Lagana with the Los Angeles Rams. Whose house? You're listening to the Los Angeles Rams UK podcast. Undenied worldwide. The Los Angeles Rams. It doesn't get any better than this. Let's go Rams!
Good evening, welcome to episode 101 of the LA Rams UK podcast, The Running Man. I'm John, and joining me as always is Andy. Andy, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm not bad. Just glad to be back on winning street, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Especially after, it was definitely a game of two halves, and you kind of you were wondering at half time. It was like, oh my god, is this that like I said last week, this had the feel of a banana skin game, and was it just going to turn out to be that way and I've jinxed the team again?
Yep, we are definitely a team of two halves, and usually it's the first half we're good and the second half we're absolutely awful, but it seemed to be a flip, and that's of course referring to our Week 6 victory over the Cardinals, 26-9 victory against them. Like as you touched upon, Andy, the first half wasn't pleasant watching at all, was it?
No, it was an absolute disaster, and you just felt like, where were we gonna, get the ball moving? How were we gonna get this game going? Were we just gonna, everything in the first half just felt off. And to be honest, it felt lethargic from the team. The team felt very lethargic and just like it felt like almost like they were just on like a walkthrough, and the attitude was, it's only the Cardinals, will easily smack them, and the Cardinals have proven, even though they've got a bad record this season, that they have got that dog in them, and the coach has got them fired up to battle. But in the end, I think our quality, especially on offense, shined through, and we just got the job done in the second half.
Yep, definitely did.
I think one thing I think we want to shout out is it was nice. I think it's the first time in a long time I've actually seen McVay make adjustments at halftime, which is like, rare as hell.
I mean, on that going into the game, there was a whole like, oh, is he going to be there to coach because obviously his wife's expecting. He's since joked that his son knows better than not to come during the game. But the adjustments he made at half time, it made me sit and think, is he just basically said, just run the goddamn ball in case I need to go here? And I thought he was maybe expecting a call, like I'm going to have to rush. Just run it. Don't care, just run it. Like I'm off. Like, because we actually ran the ball more than we passed it. And that's not something I think the Rams have done in a very long time. Not to such success. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great to see us run the ball. It was great to see. I mean, it was 178 or 79 yards in the second half alone.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Jesus Christ, man. I mean, that's good enough to get a whole game on the ground like that. But for the second half, like, that's incredible. And the majority of that is down to one man. Kyren fucking Williams, as I'm labeling him here. 20 carries for 158 yards, and he got a touchdown as well. For me, it was a breakout performance from him. I mean, yeah, granted it's the Cardinals, but still, credit where it's due to Williams, Andy?
Yeah, exactly. Credit where credit's due. This is definitely, he's put himself, definitely on the map, and it's just the same that it's looking like now he's going to miss a few weeks with injury, and just when I think he was getting going and finally getting confidence in the team, and the team also, the offensive line and McVay were getting used to, well, this is actually what this guy can do if you just give him a chance. Like I've said previously, he's not going to break off, massive, 30, 40 yard runs because he's not quick, but he's, if anything, it's actually helping him because he's more patient. He's allowing the blocking to go, and then he's just grinding out those 8-10 yard every time, and just giving us that. As I've said before, for a small guy, he's given us this power element that I don't think we've had in our game for a very long time. Certainly not since we had what's his face Anderson alongside Gurley, where he gives us that power element. So it's nice to finally have that in the game, and we've got linemen now, especially with Avia and Dotson, who are big, bulky guys who are actually just creating those spaces for them simply with their size.
Yep. Yeah, just like you said, Danny. We've said it before, but with Williams, he's not necessarily like a speedy running back, but he is capable of kind of grinding out the yardage, and that's the kind of the ground game. It's his own kind of ground and pound, I guess, that we seem to prefer. But this week, obviously, he was able to break out for some decent gains on the ground. But like I said, for me, like just the sheer amount of plays we actually ran on the ground was just it's unheard of for McVay. But that's not to distract from the running game, because Cooper Cup went 7 receptions for 148 yards and a touchdown. Which is it's I guess and it's great stats, but it's typical Cooper Cup stats. But it's great to see that Cup, in his second week back, he's hit the ground running, Andy, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's I think last week he said he seemed a little bit rusty, but this week him and Stafford seem to be back on Super Bowl form almost, if you like. With they were just so well connected with each other, right places, right times. He came down with a few tough catches as well, and just give us basically what we expect from Cup, and hopefully this continues for the guy. And I think even on these 2 games now on pace, even with him missing the first 3-4 weeks of the season, he's still on for 1,000+ yards yet again already.
Yep. I mean, even last week with the rust, he was still over 100 yards.
Yeah.
In receptions. So even with that rust, he was still capable of getting the yardage. So yeah, like you said, like imagine if we had him from the start of the year. In a sense, we're seeing that Puka's kind of not necessarily been relegated, but he's definitely kind of taking a bit of a step back because Cup's now there. He's the number one guy. He's wide receiver 1. I suppose it was to be expected that when Cup came back that Wells Puka started on came out the traps absolutely flying, blowing people away his first 4 weeks. It was to be expected that he would kind of not necessarily fade off to the sunset, but take that little step back because our number one guy's there, Andy?
Yeah, and as the stats show, this was very much, we tend to be a very pass happy game, which is where you can have the 2 receivers. This week, it was, a large run game, which means those stats are going to disappear. But, I will say one thing over the past couple of weeks, something that has started to creep into Nakua's game, which we've not seen, is drops. And that's kind of a little bit worrying now that he has, he dropped the touchdown, which, you'd expect him to get. And, the week before he had a couple of drops as well. So, it's something that's a little bit worrying for us, I think, with him. Obviously, it's only 2 games, but, I don't know whether his confidence has gone down because he's not getting the targets or whether it's just bad luck. But I think Stafford is one of those sort of quarterbacks. If he doesn't have the confidence though in you, he's going to stop throwing because he's like, I'm not going to throw to you if you're going to just drop it on me.
Yeah.
And he'll go back to, well, Cup's Mr. Reliable because he catches everything. I'm just going to launch it his way.
That's that. Yeah, and there's that kind of connection between Stafford and Cup that he's always going to look out. Cup, see where he is. And like you said with the confidence, he knows that when he launches the ball to Cup, definitely. I suppose you can't really say more than 9 times out of 10. It's not every time he's going to catch it, but you're pretty much Cup's guaranteed to bring it down more or less every time that Stafford kind of slings it towards him. Whereas also Nakua is still a rookie, he's still learning. You kind of the NFL side of the game. His career started off great. This kind of lull, as we'll say, was to be expected, but that's not to say that in the coming weeks Nakua will get back into the game. It's just that we've got Cup back. Stafford's going to want to target him first and foremost. We're going to want to utilise him in terms of the plays we're calling first and foremost. Secondly, and it's just a byproduct that a rookie who was able to step up to fill the gap that Cup's injury left in the team is going to now recede back to where. I mean, well, not necessarily where he was going to be, because we probably thought Nakua was going to be further down the kind of wide receiver core. So he kind of just stepped back one step because he's probably seen as wide receiver 2 now, isn't he, Andy?
Yeah, basically he's now wide receiver 2, and we've gone back to the natural order of cut 1. Obviously, Nakua is now 2, and then,
Yeah. And we didn't
Atwell's
expect
3.
him to be 2.
No, because we were all expecting it was going to be Cup, Van Jefferson, and then it was going to be a sort of freeway fight between Atwell, Skoranek, and maybe occasionally we'd see Nakua, And to be honest, McVay traditionally hasn't been one. He tends to leave his rookie wide receivers a lot of the time on the bench for the first year, or just has them as sparing players. Oh, well, game's finished. I'm going to rest my starters. You can go in and have a few snaps. That tends to be his way. Whereas obviously this year he was kind of forced because of the cup situation to get him out there.
Yeah.
But
You mentioned a name there, and we've not really heard much of him this year, and that is Benny Sko. Last year he was quite a prominent figure in the Rams offense, and that was before the injuries really even hit. We had the whole Benny Sko fullback, era last year, but this year he's just totally fell down the pecking order, hasn't he, Andy? And I think it's one of those ones I hate to say it, but he's probably on the kind of chopping block. He's one who's probably going to end up going in the year the way things are going.
I don't know, because obviously his special teams contribution, he's still making the contributions on there, which was always an important side of his game, and I think he's more obviously now he's sort of wide receiver 4, because obviously we've let Jefferson go, so he's a capable backup to step in if things go wrong. But I think as well it's just a case of, because we've got now a couple of big guys up front in Avia and Dotson, we don't need that extra blocker. So McVay's thinking, well, I don't need to put the extra blocker in now. So what's the point? I've got a couple of big guys who are doing the job, creating the spaces, blocking up things. So I don't need to, instead of it, having Skoranek back there as the fullback, and then he's going to have to drop Nakua or Atwell or someone, he can basically now go, well, I'll just keep the 3 of them out, because Nakua is still doing a decent job even himself on running blocking still. So I think it is just a case of, again, because of the changes and the improvements we've made in areas, his role has diminished because of that.
Yep. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, 9 points allowed the whole game from the defense. I know the Cardinals' offense isn't exactly the best, and that's been polite to them. But still, 9 points is 9 points. 3 field goals the whole game is amazing, especially to shut them out the second half. Aaron Donald is 1 sack away now from moving into the all-time top 30 of sack leaders in the NFL. But shouting him out again, he was the player of the week last week, and that is Ernest Jones, tackling machine, leading the defense once again in tackling. He's shown quite a lot of consistency this year, isn't he, Andy? In terms of his output on defense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, as you said previously, he's took that year under, Wags to basically get himself, to learn the game a bit more. Obviously, another year's experience, and for a lot of linebackers, I think we're starting to notice a trend in the league is it's taken them 2, 3, sometimes 4 years before because of how complex the position is these days in the modern NFL. It's taken them a bit longer to get used to it, and I think we're just seeing that now, the maturation of him, that he's starting to really get the position, understand it, and the guy is just it's like basically walks on that pitch and someone's just stuck a rocket up his backside, because he's just flying up and down that pitch everywhere, and that is something, traditionally for the Rams, we've kind of always, linebackers almost felt like we don't need to really worry about that position. We've got Aaron Donald, we've got a good secondary, middle of the park don't matter. And I think now that we've got somebody who's, up there as, I'm not going to say one of the best, but, a top.
Decent,
top 60. If you're going to start starting 32, I'd put him, right bang, sort of in the middle, top 16. He's and trending well, but the guy is still trending upwards. So I think next year he's due his contract, and hopefully we've learnt from our mistakes of letting players go like that and basically
Yeah.
keeping the guy. And he's again a young piece on the defense that we can build around for the future as well. You know,
Yeah.
he to be honest, he could be our, if you like, Levante David of the Bucks. You know, just sticks with the team year in, year out, and gets better and better as he gets older.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Was it Ernest Jones that last year Aaron Donald actually described as potential for being an absolute stud
Yeah,
in the league? It was
yeah,
Jones, wasn't it? Because
yeah,
I remember Donald speaking last year about what I believe it was Jones, and like at the time Jones wasn't really kind of like playing as much because Wagner was the focus in the
yeah.
linebacker core.
He was very much. He was one of them again. Just did the job. He didn't really notice him. He just got on with his job, which is as a linebacker, especially as a middle linebacker. If you're just doing your job and not getting noticed, it kind of means you're doing it. You're doing
Yeah.
well because you're not getting highlighted for blowing coverages or missing out on your gaps in run defense and what have you. And like I say, the guy's just again every year since he's come to the team, it's just improved every year. Year in, year out. And I think for the moment for the guy, the sky is the limit. And seems the sort of guy as well. He's got the right mentality of, you know what, I'm coming in every day, I'm training, I'm getting my head down. He's obviously clearly studies his tape and is improved, to keep that improvement going. And that, like I say, is just, fantastic for us moving forward. Um, like I said before, hopefully this is a guy that, much like AD, is going to be around for a long time and will retire a Ram and, be seen in the likes of, Bobby Wagner, Devontae David, in a few years' time, he'll be when you're discussing your top 5 linebackers, I can see him being in that sort of conversation if he carries on his trajectory as he's going.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, as you touched upon, the kind of linebacker position, the Rams isn't one that they've ever really put a lot of thought and a lot of kind of time into actually getting the right guys into those positions. With the exception of James Laurinaitis, like for me, like the last, good running back, linebacker that the Rams have, you're going back to like kind of like obviously like Lyndon Fletcher, Leonard Little. Like the Rams have always struggled in the linebacker core, and for me, it does seem like they've got something there in Jones. And like I said, just as introduced this wee bit, that he's consistently performing this year so far on defense, and he's leading the defense in tackling, which
Yeah,
is which is great. And it's great that it's coming from the linebacker position, and it's not like tackling coming from the line or whatever. Like it's good from
yeah.
just like kind of run stopper, kind of mentality or what.
Yeah, it's not just that as well. Obviously, modern day linebackers, you've got to be able to cover as well. You've got to be
Yeah.
able to cover tight end running backs, and he's doing that well. It's not as if like some linebackers, they're either good at coverage or they're good at run defense. They can't do both. So that's where you tend to find you have your 2 linebackers. One will be your pro, which is why a lot of teams now are starting to play like strong safeties as like the sub linebacker
Mm-hmm.
on passing downs because they don't have that other player. He's a 3 down linebacker. He can cover, he can tackle, he can do the run, he can do everything, and that's a
Yeah.
really good sign. If we can just get somebody alongside him similar, then the middle of the park is basically sorted for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Is the sorry? On you go. Sorry,
I
on you go.
don't trust as much as Roseboom and what have you. I just don't. The guy just doesn't do it for me. I just really don't think why anybody sees him. I know he got an interception this week, but basically the ball just landed in his hands. I just
Yeah.
don't rate the guy. But that's the sort of linebacker we've played with for donkey's years. It's
Yeah.
your Troy Readers, your Christian. It's just been whatever. We'll just stick him out there. If they make a play, great. If they don't, well, we've just got to have him out there for rules.
We've got Aaron Donald out there. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Is there anyone else in the defense you want to kind of get praise to?
Yeah, again, highlighting, Byron Young again, just seems to be getting better and better. every game he's playing. He's getting more instinctive with the game. His speed. I think a lot of teams are really struggling with his pure speed. Especially when he's getting out, into a bit of space and he can, get that bend around tackles. He's just all over them. To be honest, another one is again Witherspoon just did his job again this week. Which is I think what we just need at the moment. He's just solid. He's covering up wide receiver ones and that 80% of the time winning his battles, and that a guy who's just quietly again come into the team, no flash, no fuss, and he's just getting on with the job, which is what, like I say, what we needed was just a bit of stability in the back end because of how young it is.
Yep. Just going back quickly, just on Byron Young there. I saw that him and Kobe Turner this week are graded in the top 10 by PFF for rookies. So the two of them, Kobe Turner's another one who's kind of came in and has started off his career quite well with the Rams. But moving back to Witherspoon seems to be an absolute, great acquisition by the Rams special defense. Like, he's came in, no fuss whatsoever. Just came in, got his head down, and he's performing, he's grinding, and he's shutting down receivers left, right, centre, and he's been able to get an next interception. He's definitely he's like it's good to have someone that seems to have a bit of quality in the secondary. Will come onto one of his teammates in a minute because I want to try and end the victory over the Cardinals on a kind of positive kind of note, and that's to name our Week 6 Player of the Week. Now, looking at the stats, right, there's two options, right? There's the easy option, and then there's the right option. And the easy option is to give it to Cooper Kupp, who in only his second week has put up Cooper Kupp numbers. However, it's Cooper Kupp numbers, and that's not to take away that it's not anything special. It's the output that we have now come to, it's the norm for Kupp. So that's saying he's the easy decision. The right decision is your man, Kyren Williams. 150 yards, for a guy that we've talked about him every single episode so far this year. We've said, he's doing good. He's grinding at. He's not a power. Well, I suppose he's a bit of a power back. He's not a speedy back. He's not going to get you big gains and whatnot, but he'll get you those yards that you need. Whereas this week he got those yards and a bit more. So for me, if you're in agreement, Andy, Kyren Williams is our Week 6 Player of the Week.
Yeah, definitely. There's nobody else that we could, give it to. This is supposed to be for players, who, have either an outstanding game or a game that is more than what we'd ever expect from them. And you can't give it to anyone other than Kyren Williams because of what he did this week and his breakout. And we just hope, as I say, his injury is not too bad and he's not going to miss too much game time.
And that's a nice way to bring it on to the next bit, and that is unfortunately to talk about his injury now. So I mean, what is it? It's a sprain, isn't it? They're describing, but he's going to be out for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be a sprain. I think they've said a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, isn't it? They're expecting. So it's a bit of a.
We've had a breakout week with our running game. We actually had a running game. It looked good. It's like fantastic. Got the Steelers coming up. They're absolutely god awful run defense. We could annihilate them on the ground here without an Indigo pass. And then Williams is injured, and now Rivers is on IR. But flipping that to a bit of positive, we've also made some acquisitions there. So Darrell Henderson rejoins us for the millionth time now, and we've also signed Myles Gaskin, whilst promoting Royce Freeman to the active roster. Thoughts on the acquisitions, Andy?
Yeah, it's just players out there who we can get in. Myles Gaskin has showed flashes in Miami. But unfortunately, when you've got the likes of Mostert and A-Chain, you're never going to stand a chance with those two because of how quick they are. But he has had decent production. I'm not going to say he's anything, but special. But he's just going to get he might be another one that just needs that get the job done sort of guy if he gets promoted. Royce Freeman, yeah, we'll see. I've never rated the guy, but maybe it'll be his resurgence to come back. And obviously Henderson knows the offense. He knows McVay. He knows the scheme. Everyone's saying, they've been watching him on TikTok or Instagram or wherever it is, in the off season and what have you. He's training and he looks fit and healthy and ready to go. So, give the guy, a chance. See, maybe being cut and everything he's gone through could have given him that spark in his backside to, get it together. But I'm also excited potentially, if McVay's willing to do it, is to give Zach Evans a chance now and let's see what he can do. We drafted him fairly high for a reason. Let's get him out there and let's, it's a guy I have been calling about for the past few weeks saying, I'd like to see the guy be given a bit more of a chance because he gives that speed complement to, someone like Kyren Williams. So I'd like to see the guy now get out there and maybe, given a chance to say, well, you got 3 weeks, prove what you can do for us.
Well, that's it. Like you're saying there, let's not forget about Zach Evans here. Might have brought in like Darrell Henderson, who knows the scheme, knows the offense, and could slot straight in there. Fingers crossed, it could be a case of he's backing up, Evans. But I guess we'll see. Like you said about McVay earlier in the episode here, that he does prefer to kind of bench his rookies. So it'll be an interesting one to watch. What exactly it does here, because he's lost. Akers is gone because we've traded him, and now we've lost basically the next two running backs in the depth chart. So is he going to go to Evans, or is he going to go to a solid hand in Henderson and deal him in?
Yeah, it'd make more sense for me to give Evans a chance. To be honest, I don't see, like I've said before, I don't see how Rivers is getting game time over Evans. Personally, but obviously, we'll trust McVay and maybe what he sees that we don't see. Yeah. But for me, I just really do. Now it's time, I think, let the guy have a shot. We've seen plenty of rookies this year, running back wise, come in and, who were sort of, we'll see, have taken over, and some of them are getting running back one jobs now. So let's give the guy a chance. If he's not particularly good, well, all right, we'll put him back on the bench and we'll go with Henderson, Gaskin, Freeman, whoever. But if the kid's good, then it's another piece that we can use moving forward, and moving forward even this season for the offensive. Well, okay, now we've got that speed element that we can play more, outside runs, wide zone stuff, and stretch teams even more, which again is just going to help the rest of the team, and especially help with the play action, because then you're all of a sudden you're not going to end up with the defensive ends crashing in on you, on the pocket so quickly, because you'll have that threat of the guy going out. That's one thing with Williams. He doesn't really have that. Teams can plan because they're like, if he gets outside, he's not quick enough that we can get someone over there to cover him. If you've got that speed, as teams like Miami are showing, if you've got that speed to get on the outside, you're forcing the defensive end to sort of stay out wide away from the quarterback, which again, for a team like us who likes a lot of play action stuff, it gives Stafford a lot more time in the pocket again.
Yeah, definitely does. And moving on to the other kind of piece of news this week. So we didn't have great news, obviously, losing kind of two running backs this week. We didn't exactly have great news with Darian Kendrick, did we, Andy?
No, but I have a feeling this could be a blessing in disguise.
Yes, I absolutely agree there. He's been for lack of a better word, absolute horseshit for us this year.
Yeah.
He reminds me of, it was 2 years, not last season, the year before, and I remember talking about David Long Jr., and how he was getting absolutely tossed and annihilated off of everybody he was covering, and it was just a waste of a man out there. Kendrick this year's kind of similar to me. He's just all over the place. He's off the pace, and he's just not good enough, basically, from this year.
No, I think it shows that his lack of speed is causing so much trouble for him because he can't man up with players because, they're just going to get past him without a chance. So he's causing penalties because he's having to hold, he's having to, busted coverages. He's just not, you can have corners who are slow speed if they're intelligent with it, but the guy isn't intelligent with it either. He's just too handsy, too grabby, and to be honest, just doesn't have the right attitude for me. Even before all this, I know PFF seems to have given him a higher grade, and I'm looking at it and going, I'm sorry, you guys watching the same game that I'm watching because it seems to be one of them players. PFF loves him, but when you actually see him on tape, it's like, no, what? I don't get it. Personally, for me, I've always, I felt from the start our best three to start the season was Witherspoon, Durant, and Duke Shelley. Those three for me were the starting three that I would have gone with. Duke Shelley, much like Darius Williams, he's sort of that 5'9" corner, and basically Minnesota went, you can't play on the outside, you're too small. You're going to play as a slot, and that's not it's not his skill set. He is an outside corner, which is what we learned with Darius Williams was, okay, you're a lot shorter than, you're not the typical 6'2" corner that we want. That tradition is for the, outside corner, but with our scheme, those sort of corners work well with their speed and his intelligence. So that guy for me should have been starting from day one personally, but hopefully now with what's going on with Kendrick, depending on obviously on what happens moving forward, like I say, this could just be a blessing in disguise for the team because they'll finally be able to get that guy off the field, and actually get better players starting for us, and the defense, as much as good as the defense has been already, if we get a secondary that's even more prominent and better and has better coverage players, things can get better even more, potentially. We've got our free corners then for the next 3 or 4 years. So what about you with Kendrick? What are you thinking?
As soon as the news broke, I don't know why I wasn't surprised, and that's not because he's had this kind of like misdemeanor or whatever from college. Just the way the guys played this year, it just, like I said, for some reason it didn't take me by surprise. But on the other side, I was kind of just like you're saying, it's left like this might be a good thing because McVeigh probably. I mean, I'm surprised they've not done it already. McVeigh cut his ass basically. He's gone. I don't understand how you would want to keep a man that's been arrested, for possession, of a firearm, and then for like having cannabis as well, like you're supposed to be a role model, not just for the team but the community as well. The NFL's big on charity, volunteering, and all that, and supporting the local communities. Guys like that, like to me, there's no place for them in the league. So if you're going to get yourself in that position, like you shouldn't be on the team, basically. So I won't be surprised if he's gone. Maybe because McVeigh's his attention is kind of elsewhere. As he's preparing for his son to be born, he's not really got to that yet, or perhaps he's kind of waiting for it to die down to see actually how bad it might look for Derry and Kendrick. For him to decide, right, is this a slap in the wrist? Do we suspend him or do we get rid of him?
It might be they're waiting for the league. Maybe now they're just waiting for the league to make a decision on him as well. The league might get involved and suspend him anyway.
Yeah, maybe it's maybe that. Maybe it's the case they want the league to do a favour, do them a favour.
Yeah, they normally get done with it. Behaviour tantamount to league policy or whatever the hell it is that they call it. But this isn't the first time. This is his second charge. He's had this previously back in 21. Similar thing. Found asleep in a car with a gun in his lap and cannabis on him. So it's not as if it's a first-time offence. He's obviously previously got form for this, and this is why I think second time round he's potentially looking at a felony charge because it's not a first offence.
Yeah.
And obviously everybody knows California is, in America has got some of the strictest gun rules in America. I did speak to a mate who's from the States about this, and he basically said in California you cannot have a firearm and its ammunition together. They've got to be in separate locked boxes away from you. You can't have them, even on you. You can't, unless you've got a concealed carry permit. He said you can't do that. He said, and because he's got previous form in another state, he said he wouldn't get one anyway. So that's why he's been done for an illegal firearm. Because he's not supposed to, by California law, he's not supposed to have that firearm at all because he's got criminal form for doing it previously. So that's why he's potentially got a felony charge now.
Right, okay,
which
that
is
makes
prison
sense.
time.
Oh dear. Yeah, so obviously, maybe I'll taking it now from that perspective. The McVeigh that I'll probably wait and actually see is he going to end up in jail, because then that'll just give them the green light to go, right, we're gone. Otherwise, they'll maybe wait until league to do something about it. But then the league are probably waiting to see if the Feds are going to do anything. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, since the initial thing, we've not really heard anything else about it. So,
No.
The last I heard was he got arrested and he was still in prison later on in the day, which is unusual for. Normally, their agents will come out and basically bail them straight out. As soon as they're arrested, they get bailed. And, he was still, I think, 6 hours later and he was still in prison. So, who knows?
So elsewhere in the league, Andy, did you catch any of the games?
Just breaking news. Apparently, Kendrick was at practice today.
Oh, there you go. I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, I am surprised at that as well. So obviously he has been released from prison, clearly, and apparently he was back at practice today.
Well, Nick, keep an eye on that one then. We spent the last 5 minutes talking about this could be a blip in the skies.
Literally,
he's still there.
Yeah, it's just been broken now that he's actually still, he's been at practice today. So.
Oh, we'll monitor this one. We'll maybe revisit this next week.
Maybe. Right. Anyway, elsewhere in the league.
Elsewhere in the league, I didn't see a single snap of anything other than our game, and that's purely because I was editing episode 100 on Sunday night, so my attention was elsewhere. And just as we're finishing up, I was watching our game. Did you catch anything else, Randy? I know there was the London game with the Ravens and the Titans. Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, I watched all of that, mate. That was a decent game. Wasn't anything special, but it was whiled away a few hours in the middle of an afternoon. Saved me going shopping, which is always a bonus. So it was it was just one of them. You could one of them games you sit and watch as a neutral, but. Like I say, I think Tennessee have got a lot of problems coming up for themselves.
Yeah.
I watched
just before you go on. That's the London games finished for the year. How did you rate the games this year?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good games overall. I think the Bills Jags one was pretty exciting game because obviously two big teams. The Jags game against the Falcons, it was basically, a steamroller because, their quarterback is absolutely useless, And, this game against, Baltimore, it had its exciting moments. It was just once Tannehill got injured, it was game over because they had to bring Malik Willis in, who again just didn't seem to be able to throw a ball and just stood there for like 20 seconds waiting for somebody to smack his head off. So, But up until that point, it was kind of a decent game. And then, like I say, once Tannehill went off injured, it kind of, that was it. It was game over. But I'd say overall, decent games, some decent games. I will say so far this year, the league has felt a little bit strange with some of the results and play. And I know there was a statistic came out, was it yesterday? Apparently, quarterback players down. This is the fewest yards and touchdown by quarterbacks throughout the league since 2012, I think it was. There was the stat.
I think that's because there was a lot of talk in the kind of for the preseason about you think of some of the quarterbacks that retired over the
Yeah,
last few years, and it's not trying to run down the current quarterbacks in the league or anything like that, but there's there's a big gulf in talent when you see some of the guys that's retired over the last kind of 3-4 years or whatever.
yeah.
You know, when
I
you're
think
losing
as
like
well.
your Tom Brady's, like Matt Ryan, even though he's a choke artist, your Andrew Lucks and kind of like guys like him, and Peyton Manning, obviously, when he retired.
Yeah,
Going
obviously
for that
Rodgers
team,
out
you've
for a
got guys,
year.
yeah, like going for that to guys like seeing like Desmond Ridder in the league,
Yeah, but as you said, even the likes of Mahomes and that, their production is down.
not
A
great,
lot of
no.
the whole league. So it's interesting. Is the league slowly evolving back to more of a running style league, or because it tends to be, we have those fluctuations, don't we? Where
Yeah,
you have a few, and then teams adjust, or is it defenses are now adjusting to how these, the passing style? So now, the offense has now got to, evolution, evaluate itself and revolutionize itself to be something different to beat these defenses that we've got.
yeah,
So it's just interesting to see that, stats wise, it's all passing wise is down this year. That'd be interesting to see come the end of the year just how much of a big difference, in terms of yards it's going to
yeah,
be.
yeah.
But,
What about elsewhere in the league? Any other games stand out for you this week?
I watched the Indianapolis Jacksonville game. I think everybody was kind of like, oh, the Colts are fine. They've got Gardner Minshew back there. He's looked competent, and then this week he just looked useless. And then obviously they've had a bunch of injuries and just lost Grover Stewart for PEDs for 6 games as well. So, and their quarterback Anthony Richardson's going for season-ending surgery
Yeah,
on
I've
his
seen
shoulder.
that. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a bummer for them.
I think if I read it right during the week, they said that he probably could have continued through the season or towards the tail end of the season, but they've opted to go with the surgery now and come back fresh with start next year because it's one of the ones that'll prolong his career if they do the surgery now. If I read that right.
Yeah, basically they could sort of bench him, stick him on IR for 4 or 5 weeks and then
Yeah,
potentially bring him back. But then, there's the risk, as they said, of it, flaring up again or affecting him later on. Or they've just decided, I think it's the right way. Basically, the team
yeah,
has basically said, you know what, let's write this season off. We've seen enough out of you this year that we know you've got a future with us. We'll get you fixed up, we'll get you sorted, and you come back next year and we'll, start again and, you see how we get on, maybe build a bit of a better team around them again.
yeah,
Now they've got the Jonathan Taylor stuff sorted with his contract, they've got pieces that they can start building with next year. So, yeah, an interesting strategy from them. And I think overall, probably the right one for them. Obviously, I think 2 games we're going to have to discuss. It's nice to see. I don't like Cleveland, especially because they've got a certain quarterback who shouldn't even be in the league. But it's nice to
yeah,
see them get a win with PJ Walker that they only took off the street a couple of days before, and they've managed to beat them. That was lovely to see. And I suppose New York Jets, their defense, getting them basically the win and against the Eagles, 3 picks against them. And Zach Wilson, should we say, just doing enough to get them over the line week in, week out. And there's more and more talk that Rodgers may not even be out for the season now. He may be back,
I saw
towards.
that. Yeah, I saw the clips of him. He was at the game.
Yeah.
The first clip I seen him was him getting out of the cart, and there was a limp there. But I mean, you saw him on the field during the warm ups. And I don't know what kind of medication he's taking or whatnot.
Yeah,
But
what darkness hole, whatever his darkness hole is, I might have to go visit myself and see if I can get a few things
aye,
fixed up on the quick as well.
hopefully working. But I mean that could be a bit of a turn up for the books if he does return, especially at his age.
Yeah,
Um,
you imagine if the Jets can scrape through with Zach Wilson to the playoffs and then scrape in even the 10th, the 7th seed in the AFC, and then Rodgers comes back for the playoffs, and could you imagine? That'd be quite a story given the fact of what happened at the beginning of the year. That would
yeah,
be but like I say, Jets defense doing the job, and as long as you've got a defense as good as them, you've got they are
give
going
it
to
a
be in
chance.
some games.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Obviously, uh, I watched on Monday sort of because I was bored. So I was like, what can I watch? I was thought, I'll watch the Detroit game, see what they were like. And I hate to say it, but is it time to put Jared Goff as, top 5, top 8 quarterback with what he's doing?
Yeah, I've
Week
seen.
in, week
Yeah,
in, week out now.
in terms of the NFC, he's rated, I believe, in the top 5
Yeah.
quarterbacks in the NFC so far this year, and credit where
But
it's due to him.
I was sort of like, I thought, all right, is this more? But I was watching the guy, Tampa Bay third downs especially were bringing the blitz up and chronic, and the guy was just standing in there taking the thing and just chucking darts all over the field. So it's one of them. Could things have been different if we'd have kept them? Would things be different if we didn't go for Stafford? Where would we be at this point? It's always going to be that question, especially with how well I think one analyst said, and I kind of agreed with him, is maybe he needed that adversity of being traded away and being thrown away
Yeah.
onto the dust heap, because he's basically been the golden child, 5-star recruit, went to Cal, drafted number 1 to the Rams, but apart from 1 year with Fisher, basically has had McVay, basically guide him through, and that he basically never had that adversity, and going what he's been through with the Detroit Lions now has basically made him the better quarterback than. Yeah, but
It's allowed them to develop in the way that we wanted them to develop that
yeah,
2020 season, where he just seemed to regress, and it was we were cut a loss.
yeah,
Like you said, that kind of adversity being traded, going to no disrespect to them because they are performing really well this year. At the time a lesser team than us. He's been able to come in and make that position his own, and prove doubters. Let's not beat around the bush there. He's proven the doubters wrong there. But as I've said previously about him, I think it's the Lions is a better fit for him. I believe
yeah.
because there is less pressure on him there to perform, so he can just go out and just be him.
Enjoy the game again.
Yep, and show people what he's capable of. Don't get me wrong, he did it in LA, but we pay after Super Bowl 53. We paid him, but we expected more from him, but he wasn't ready to get to that level.
This is the
And
argument, though. Is that his fault, or was that a back office stuff thing for paying him too early and putting that pressure on him? They should have
I
kept his
think
contract.
I'm going to be honest and say I think it's more on the back office because there wasn't really a need to pay him. They just do,
No,
well, fuck it, we'll pay him. Because he's got us to Super Bowl, this is the guy. Instead of just going, we'll pay him when we need to pay him.
yeah, we could have picked up
Give
his.
him, give him the incentive to get us back there, and then
Yeah,
we'll pay him.
we had still had his 4th year of his contract.
Yeah,
Plus, we could have picked up his 5th-year option. So at the end of that 5th-year option, it would have been you'd have walked away, and we'd done a lot of no massive cap hit, and and maybe that would have given them the development time to get better. But and another ex-Ram actually that's balling out for the Detroit Lions at the moment, Josh Reynolds.
oh,
That guy has been balling. A few games now I've watched, and that guy is balling out for them again. He seems to have found his place again in the team. Again, it's just come through and just doing the job, and he's doing quite well. So it's a couple of ex-Rams there getting on with the jobs. Other than that, like I say, the Tenants, Justin Herbert choking a game again. Which unfortunately was against Dallas, but it's nice, and that was basically it. There's a lot of weird scores, and I suppose one other is, but I think it's time Belichick sort of decided to, hit the retirement home
yeah,
because
they mentioned this
clearly,
last week. Yeah,
yeah, it's not getting any better, and even now, for a guy who was always a defensive guru, even his defense now is looking lackluster and flustered and doesn't know what it's doing. Jimmy G managed to, beat you quite comfortably. Something's wrong.
Yep, that's it. So moving on, we obviously come to week 7. Before we talk about our game, the international series continues and heads over the channel to Germany. So week 7, the Dolphins and the Chiefs will be in Frankfurt. Then week 10, it'll be the Colts and the Patriots. The Germany game was really well received last year, where, if you remember, folks, we had Runa from Rams Germany. And he spoke really highly of the experience, said that the atmosphere was great and whatnot, which was funny because I think you've seen from the London games, a lot of UK fans had taken it personally about, Sweet Caroline getting played in Munich, that they want to kind of send a message that the UK fans are better. So it'll be interesting to see what the atmosphere is like. Both games on Frankfurt, as I said, both kick off at 2. So yeah, Dolphins Chiefs should be a pretty good game.
That's going to be a really good game. Who can the Dolphins steamroller them, or excuse me, had to sneeze. Or do the Chiefs defense, which, to be honest, is a pretty good defense, manages to stop them. And obviously it's the Tyreek Hill Revenge Bowl, isn't it? So that's going to be a really interesting game.
I'm going to say that this is a preview of the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, at the moment, with how spotty other teams like Buffalo are playing, I could well see it being that.
Yep, because for me, it's the two best teams in the AFC, and you're saying it's going to be a good game. It's going to be interesting to see how Mike McDaniel's kind of what he's got in store and planned against the Chiefs' offense and defense. But like you said, Mahomes, isn't having, I wouldn't say he's having a bad season, but he's not having a great season. So, but interesting to see how he comes up against that. And
I think this year for the Chiefs, it's the wide receivers aren't particularly, outside of Kelsey, are basically, not doing much. And basically, but their defense is good enough that basically they're just holding teams to less than 20 points. The Chiefs are just getting ahead, and then I think I've seen it a few times now. They're just going to grind the game out, because even if you do get them to 3rd and long and you block up all the passing lanes, Mahomes has got enough athleticism to basically just run for the first down anyway.
Yep.
And it's kind of I think that one of them teams, they're not doing it with the flashiness this year, but the way the defense is playing and Mahomes is doing just enough, they could still grind out. Potentially to get to the AFC Championship game. Yeah. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing this game and seeing what happens. I'm just praying it's not going to be a snooze fest.
I don't think it will be. But I'll tell you one game that isn't going to be a snooze fest, and that's our week 7 match against the Steelers. So this Sunday, the Steelers come to town at SoFi. We are 1-4 against them in our last 5 rounds. 9:05 UK time. We're not in Sky Sports, so you can catch game on. Is it Dazn?
Yeah,
I call it Dazn.
Yeah, Dazn.
I was watching. My son wanted to watch the bloody Fury KSI fight, and it was the first time I'd ever heard Dazn being pronounced, and I was like, "It's Dazn." So, but I get that. I just fits him in the recurring theme that John can't actually pronounce anything properly. So that's that. But yeah, so we're on their Game Pass, which will be good. So we don't have to put up Neil Reynolds again. I was actually worried we were going to be on Sky Sports because I think Fox are carrying us as their, not their game of the week, but they're carrying us as their main late game. So I was a bit concerned that it was going to be. But Andy, how are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. The Steelers do have a good defense, and all said and done, they're still a very defensive team, and they can, when you've got Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, that they're going to cause issues for us, but I think, again, we have the quality that, we can, especially with Cup, just get the ball going. Obviously, we'll have to see what our run game's like. And I think defensively, with how pathetic the Steelers' offenses are. It's much like the Cardinals this week. It shouldn't be a contest. It should just be a case of we go out there, we shut them down, we hold them to maybe a few field goals, and our offense just grinds out enough to get the job done. I don't think it's going to be as easy game as a lot of people are thinking it's going to be because of how good their defense is. But I think, again, much like the Cards, we will show that we have more quality to just grind the result out and get it done. It has one of them feelings of a game. Again, it might even come down to a field goal. We'll win by a field goal, and that'll be it. That's just how I'm feeling about this one. It's going to be a tight game for us, and it's how well can our offensive line hold up against their defense. Their defensive line. If they can hold up well enough to give Stafford time, I think he will carve them apart.
It would feel slightly different about it if Williams wasn't out injured, because the run defense is not great. So there was no opportunity there for us to build on last week, and to win the game in the grounds. But we'll have to kind of obviously look more to the air. But that's not to say that the way Stafford's been playing. He's been getting a lot of plaudits so far this year that he's looking more like his old self.
Yeah.
And that's the good Stafford. That's not the for launching it down for an interceptions. For a Hollywood pass Stafford. That's like consistent. That he's actually kind of like his arm looks good. That elbow issue's not giving him any problems whatsoever. He's staying healthy. He's got, like you said, because he's got two bigger guys there in front of him. He's getting more time in the pocket. He's not getting hit as much as he was like last year. He was getting absolutely pounded last year off the defenses. So he's getting the time, to watch the play develop, read the defense, and make the plays. So I'm confident in him being able to do that. Even against the Steelers defense this week. But like you said, it's potentially going to be a close one. We've said it a few times now. We said it right at the start of this episode. It's going to be a game of two halves. It's going to be a case of we're going to be good the first half or second half here. And we'll just see how it goes. But I mean, all in all, I'm looking for the win from this one.
Same here. If we can get off to a fast start, pull ahead a little bit, I don't feel the Steelers have got the offense that can, keep up with a shootout sort of scenario. So if we can get, a couple of touchdowns or maybe a field goal ahead, that's it. Game's basically over and done with, bar complete disasters, pick sixes, or strip sack returns. I do feel that that we will basically then we can just grind the game out and we'll win it. But a little bit of me wants to finally see McVay just go stuff it and let's just pound on a team and rack the skulls up. That's one thing I do find with McVay. He doesn't like to really do that very often. Yeah. I'd like to see us just say, you know what, stuff it this week. If you like Miami did a few weeks ago, you try and stop us. If you can't stop us, we're just going to keep scoring until it's, we've dropped a flipping 40, 50 bomb on you. Let's just see, and let players get the confidence as well. But like I say, defensively, I don't see this being, this should be a bit of a snooze fest for for them, because the Steelers don't show anything at all. The only issue that worries me is if they get, it's either Curtis Warren or Carter Warren back, their running back. If he comes back this week, he's quite a big threat in the run game, and he could potentially cause us a few issues. But I'm confident with how well our run defense has played as well that we could shut him down. Because if you can shut the run down, that's it. The Steelers' offense is finished.
That's it. Yep. And it relates to the way, like you said, we were talked about Ernest Jones. Like, I'm confident in players like him on defense being able to stop the run as well. Whilst we've only really got maybe like, not maybe like, we've only got Aaron Donald up front in terms of like actual talent on the defensive line. That's not to take anything away from the other guys. We've got Biden Young.
Yeah, it's like proven talent.
Well. But proven talent, yep.
Yeah.
It's good knowing that if they get by that line, you've got somebody like Ernest Jones that's there ready to kind of wrap it up. So I'm confident that in years gone by when we used to always slate our run defense, I'm confident in our run defense actually being able to improve this year with the guys we've got and brought in, drafted in terms of like Turner and Byron Young, guys like that can really can add as well. And they've started off well. So I'm confident that we can shut them down.
Yeah,
Basically.
as much as we've called the guy out for the last few weeks, even Michael Hoyt and
Yeah.
in his run defense this week, against the Cards, he did well. He did really well. Him and Jonah Williams, he was sort of flipping between each other. They were both doing good jobs. So if those two can do that again, there's no reason why we can't shut these guys down and walk out with a nice easy win.
Yep, that's it. And fingers crossed it's a win. Before
Yeah.
we wrap up, Andy, anything else you want to bring up or discuss? How's you gone at fantasy actually this week?
I think I lost again. I've not actually even looked. I actually haven't looked because I have just a feeling I think it was another loss.
I'm 3-3 now. I didn't fare too good this week.
Yeah, I'm just looking now.
Got about 70 or 80 points. I managed to get, which was awful.
I know I did. I won last week. I'm 2-4.
There you go. Hey.
However, I've had to drop off my team because basically all my starters, half my bench is all injured now.
Oh, they're injured.
Yeah, so I've literally had to, and I've got to make 2 changes again this week because 2 of my players are now on bye.
Fantastic. Anyone of note?
Only Tyler Boyd and Evan McPherson was on bye this week for the Bengals. Which is decent players, and obviously Jets defense is on bye as well, which has been get me the most points, to be honest. Yeah. So, but yeah, obviously Justin Jefferson's out, so I'm missing that and a few others. I think Tank Dell I had to get rid of because he's got injured as well now. So, it just seems to be this year. I seem to be everybody I've drafted in fantasy is getting injured. So. Just be glad I didn't draft any Rams players.
Yeah. I think I've only got CJ Stroud, who's my backup quarterback, on bye week, and Joe Mixon. I think it is.
Yeah, it'd be Joe Mixon. Yeah,
I've got. It's a Bengal anyway. Yeah, I think it's Mixon. Everyone else I've got. Sorry, it was actually smart for once. Usually when I draft in the fantasy leagues, I just draft and then realise that I'm going to have 1 week where at least half my team is on the bye together. I mean, it's 1 week to take the hit and the loss, and that's it. But it usually ends up a week where I really need to win.
Yeah, so that's it. I'll not be
a bit better this year, but it's I'm sitting third out of fifth in my division.
Yeah.
Middle of the pack.
Normally, when it comes to my kicker, I don't bother drafting the second kicker. I just let them go on the bye because it's not that
for
many
all
points.
The points they get.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But like I say, unfortunately, I had to bring Boyd in because I'd lost Jefferson, and it was like I forgot that he was also on bye. So it's like, Jesus, what am I going to do now?
I mean, I've got Mahomes as my starting quarterback, and that is when you were saying about him, he's not really been performing as well as this. It's when if you've got these guys on fantasy, you can actually see not how bad they're playing, but how not as good they're playing compared to other years when it's like he gets he says projections like 20 points, and he's always under his projection. Mahomes is usually the kind of quarterback that's always over his projected points.
Yeah, they're always everyone. You have to inflate his points because he's guaranteed to always get more than what they expect. But this year, it's just like I say, it's just not been. But I've seen that with a lot of quarterbacks, as I say, this year.
That's it. Yeah, but we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, I will say though, I've actually got Goff as my starting quarterback, so I'm kind of happy about that at the moment. Ironically.
Oh well, there you go.
He's the only one I think that managed to get me the win last week because I've not done anything else so far.
Listen, as the season goes on, he could be an absolute dark horse in terms of fantasy.
Well,
the way they're going.
I did put a cheeky £5 the other day on Detroit to win it all, so.
That's ambitious. That is ambitious.
It is,
But
but the odds are very good.
well, if you think about the year that we got the Super Bowl, I know we didn't win, but I'm pretty sure the odds on us that year would have been really good. Let's say that, and well, actually, the year we did win it all. In fact, I bet the odds were even better.
Especially with how sketchy like the NFC is at the moment. I don't think there's a better time for them to potentially go and do it all.
And hindsight's a wonderful thing. I bet, like, see if you put in the 2022 season, no 2021 season, sorry. If you put the bet on us winning all in November, you'd have got incredible odds. Like they would have like said, you want to just cash out the now, you can just take your bet back. No, I'll keep it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now, before the more they're going to win now. I mean, they're 5-1, so they're up there at the top of the whole, the NFC.
Yeah.
The stock is going to start, climbing where it's going to be. So I thought now's the time. If you're going to plenty of fiver, if you lose it, it's not the end of the world. Or if you win it, well, it's quite a nice little payout if you get it all.
See, Will's been actually talking about the betting, right? Because it's something. It's something. It's new, I guess, to America, that betting seems to be getting pushed a lot more. But have you noticed there's a lot more talk about the kind of spread in terms of like the final scores of games, and it's always the one I picked up is actually the Chiefs games, like commentators making like remarks as if like, oh no, well they didn't want to score so that they could make sure it keeps within the spread. As in terms of like, not really match fixing them. I'm not saying that, but like, is it point shaving? They'll call it. Where they're trying to keep it within a certain point so that it doesn't go over. Like so like the 10.5 or whatever. There's been quite a few commentators saying it during games, but I don't know if it's a league thing that they're trying to push betting in the sport now, because over the last kind of year or so, it's sportsbook, sorry, as they call it in America, whereas we would just call it betting. It seems to be something that's getting pushed a lot more, but I think that's because companies like FanDuel, that are American-based kind of sports betting company, and Caesar Sports, I think someone I keep seeing advertised, they're really like, pushing betting in sports in general now.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the spread is basically how many points they'll win by, or they're within this area. So if it's a 3-point spread, the game would be like 27-30 sort of thing. They expect it to be roughly within that range, 7.10. That's how it works. It's got to be roughly within that range of a win. That's how it basically works on the spread. But I mean, for Detroit to win it all at the moment, it's 450 to 1. So if I it's a fair chunk back on a fiver.
It's a fair chunk. It's worth a fiver, eh? Yeah. What are we out of interest?
I think we're 600 to 1.
Oh, that's worth a fiver.
What, to win it all? Well,
Listen, I remember the very first episode I ever came on and done this podcast. You were on it as well, and it was funnily enough. It was we were going in to play the Cardinals. We beat the Bucks at home, and I remember saying it. And Tony, who was hosting the episode, was like, "Oh no, don't get ahead of yourself." I turned around the episode and said, "Look, based off of what I've seen last week, who knows? I think we've got a great chance of running this and winning this. I think people are writing us off. I think we're a dark horse, and we went and won it. And so never say never. All it takes is some results to go in your favour to scrape in. Bear in mind we went a full month the year we did win it all. We went a full month without winning a single game. And it wasn't exactly, and it was against like say the 49ers, the Packers, for example. So it wasn't against rubbish teams. We're getting teams at our level. I don't want to say better, but you know what I mean. So you never know. But for those odds, it's worth chucking me a fiver.
That's what I say. Yeah.
Just for a laugh.
Yeah, that's what I did. You know what? If I get it all, I get it all. If I don't, well,
but
not the end of the world.
I suppose putting a fiver on the Lions to win it all was probably more sensible than putting a fiver on us to win it all. But
yeah,
you never know.
You never know. Stranger things have happened, mate.
Stranger things have happened, mate. And look, with that, folks, that about does it for us here at episode 101 of the Early Rams UK podcast. In case you missed it, on Sunday night we dropped episode 100, which is a short episode, we half-hour episode where I was joined, Andy also joined me as well, but I was also joined by Tony, Chris, and Aaron. That you will remember, they are still part of the Early Rams UK team. Very much, I'm still a big part of the team. The guys are just can't commit to the podcast, just working personal life, but they're still in the backgrounds, grinding away as they always have been. But they joined us for the episode where we reminisced about their experience, how they got involved in Early Rams UK, and just general their hopes for the future. So please check that out, folks. You'll get that through all our usual audio channels. I've not got around to uploading the audio version into YouTube, but I'll get to that. It'll be on YouTube as well. But you can catch us on YouTube, just to plug it as well, at Early Rams UK. We're here on not Spotify. Again, we're on Spotify. Sorry, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes. You can catch all usual places and whatnot. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, get the notifications on so you don't miss any episodes, folks. But that, like I said, that does it for this episode. Andy, always a pleasure, mate.
Yep, same here, mate. Always a pleasure, and hopefully we're back this next week for another win and a bit more positivity.
We will, and we'll catch you next week, folks, where we will mull over, which fingers crossed will be a victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for now, folks, we will catch you later. Good night.